before we go into the word, I have a special and a distinguished guest among us. John Dortch is an entrepreneur, he's a consultant, he's a mentor. He wrote several books, is known in the community, he's a leader in the community. And if you get a chance to know this man, you just learn our wealth of knowledge that God has given him. So he released a new book. His books are really so good and really to the point. And I wanted for the next 10 minutes for us to just briefly get the nuggets from what he has released several books. But today this is the last book. This is the new book that he just released. But it's already catching fire. So would you just stand as we are welcoming John Dortch. John Dortch. Thank you, guest. So we're so honored to have you today, John. You're truly a blessing for the Forward community. So just briefly tell us about yourself. Who is John Dortch?
Wow. Good morning.
Good morning.
I've enjoyed the service. I grew up AME Methodist. You're probably familiar with the Methodist Church, right? In my first book, I wrote, being spiritual keeps you grounded. I don't care how much education you have, how much money you have. As long as you have a belief, as long as you're spiritually connected, God will take care of you. I tell everybody I'm just a farm country boy. I grew up in Alabama. We still have 80 acres of land, 5-bedroom house. My dad had a 6th grade education. My mom had an 8th grade. 11 kids, 7 girls, 4 boys. I'm the youngest boy. We're all college graduates. One of the chapters in my first book, my dad said, get a skill or get an education. Everybody's not going to go to school. So you might have a skill, might be a plumber, electrician, or whatever. So when I graduated from high school, I was more of a rebel. I ended up drag racing one night, and I ended up in jail. I stayed out of school for 2 years before I went to college. I'm the only one of the 11 kids that did that. But I learned a valuable lesson from that. So I enrolled in college, graduated in 3.5 years instead of 4 years with honors. Went to school, went to work for the Internal Revenue. I'm sure you all are familiar with them. Nashville, Tennessee, I worked there for 2 years with them. International Officer recruited me to Fort Wayne. So I came and worked with them for 3 years. I left the International Officer. I went to Parkview Hospital. I went through 5 promotions. Last 15 years, I was the vice president at Parkview. In May 14th of 2004, I left Parkview. I walked away from a major job of vice president, but I was bored. I wanted to get out of the corporate America arena because I felt as a black man and wanted to do things, I was not getting to where I wanted to go. So I started my first company, the Preston Group. My middle name is Preston. 18 years this May. Preston Group will be 18 years old. Most companies only last 3 to 5 years. I'm a consultant. I travel, I'm in Bluffton, Indiana, every Tuesday and Thursday. I go to Canton, Ohio, Lordstown, Ohio, Toronto, Canada, Crystal Lake, Wisconsin, and now they just bought a plant in Kentucky, so I will be traveling there. I started a Black Chamber of Commerce 12 years ago because I I felt that we were not, as blacks, again, getting what we could or should. So I spent a lot of time trying to get people to be entrepreneurs, where you can do it yourself. If you can work for someone else, you can do it for yourself. Dr. Jeff Tolles was a physician in this town. You might have heard of him. He had an office on Calhoun Street. I bought that building 7 years ago. It is what is called a minority entrepreneur center. There are 9 black people in there that have offices. They're all entrepreneurs. When I wanted to put the sign up that said Minority Entrepreneur Center, I was talking to a white gentleman who made the sign, and he said, "Do you sure you want to say minority?" I said, "You sure you want to get paid?" Well, obviously he did. So you drive down Calhoun Street, you would see the sign. I also started a newspaper. You might be familiar with the Fort Wayne Ink Spot. I started that in June of 2018. Be 4 years old this June. I bought a lot of copies. I have a lot of copies out there for you. And if you subscribe to the paper, you get it every other week, mailed to your house. It's $50 a year. The intention of the newspaper is to promote us, promote black people that are doing things. Instead of reading in the Journal Gazette on the front page, somebody got shot, they got killed, or all of this, I don't like that. So my paper is very positive, and I give over 400 papers a month. I give 80 papers a month to the jail. I give 80 papers to the juvenile center. I give 80 papers a month to the rescue mission. And there are 2 women's shelters in this town, so I give 80 papers, total 160 to those. The reason, and I pay for those papers, they get them free. The reason I do it because a lot of people in each one of those places are not there through no fault of their own. They are there because, one, the system, or they have been mistreated. So because of that, even the deputy sheriff said, they read it while they're there. When they get out, a lot of people have a different attitude about what they can do. I've written 2 other books, and my 3rd book is the one that's up here. And those books are $10. My first book I sold, In My Father's House, These Are the Rules, and it's about how I grew up. My 2nd book was Built to Lead, A Guide to Mentorship. We all need a mentor. And when I met this fine gentleman here a year ago, maybe, we meet the 4th Thursday of every month, in which I'm mentoring him. And I do a lot with entrepreneurs, people that want to start a business. I work a lot with them. But you can see each one of the chapters here is 14 rules, because we grow up with rules. I don't care if you're only 2, 3, 4 years old, there are rules. So there are rules, whether you agree with them or not, but I felt that I wanted to write this book. It has not been officially released yet, but First Source Bank just bought 60 of these books. The library just bought 30 of the books, and I'm planning on, because of COVID, Barnes & Nobles cannot let me sell them there as of yet, but I will be hopefully sometime this year, and I will be other places getting this book in the hands of many people. So that's kind of who I am. I'm very spiritually connected. I've enjoyed the service, and I keep a Bible in my car. I ride with the Bible. There have been many times when I'm driving and something might hit me and I'll pull over just to read a scripture. So you got to be connected.
Give a clap for that. So let's just for a few minutes, if you can share with us about this latest book. You have 14 rules, and some of you have received a little card that describes those 14 rules. So out of those 14 rules, can you maybe share a few of them, just maybe rule number 1? What does that mean for you? So just let's go. Rule number 1 for 30 seconds each rule.
Rule number 1 is, actually a lot of us are very bad at that. I was supposed to be here by 11 o'clock today, and I think I got here at 10:40. You know, there's no reason to not be on time. Most people are fired for 3 reasons. Attendance, not on time, leaving early, performance, not doing your job, or behavior. A behavior issue in which you don't know how to treat people. So rule number 1, just be on time. As simple as that. Rule number 2, there's no such thing as a second impression. Oftentimes we say that, a first impression. Well, you do need to make a first impression because decisions are made on that. I used to do a lot of interviewing, and when someone come in, if 1, they're late, if 2, they don't say good morning or good afternoon or whatever, I'm not going to spend any more than 2 seconds with them because they just blew an opportunity to get a job. So you don't get no such thing as a second impression. Number 3, watch and learn. You can learn a lot just by sitting around watching people or watching what's going on. I wrote an editorial probably 15 years ago about, I went to the mall and I sat there because I like to write from time to time, and I wrote an article about people, especially young men, walking up and down the hall of the mall with the pants almost falling off and all of that. Also, I always tell young men, if you put a H-O-L-E in your ear, you put a H-O-L-D on your career. I think you understand what that means. It's not saying I'm opposed to it, but I'm just telling you. Have you ever walked in the bank and seen a young man in there with an earring in his ear? The banks are not gonna. If you would come to work for me and you had a hole in your ear, I wouldn't hire you. As simple as that. That's not helping you with your performance. And you might be in marketing or sales, and you go out and trying to sell somebody something, they're not going to buy it only because of that. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but you got to understand what goes on. Talk to talk. Mentoring provides you an opportunity to work with someone to understand what to say, when to say it, and all of that, All of you probably remember Dennis Rodman, the basketball player, went from one basketball team to the other, and now he's just out goofing around, Very talented. You can be one of the most talented person in the world, but if you don't know how to talk, you're not going to make it. Continuing education, I talked about that, and that doesn't mean that you're in college or whatever. If you're going to be a plumber, a carpenter, or whatever you're going to be, you have to continue the education. If you're going to be an auto mechanic, my goodness, with cars today and the way they are made and what it takes to fix them and all that, you have to get the education of how to do a car. I can go on and on, but okay. Look in the mirror. Remember Michael Jackson's song, Always, always. Now, for you guys, I know a young man, he's married, but his wife says he spends more time looking at himself in the mirror than he does with anything else. You don't have to. When you look in the mirror, you're going to see flaws, a lot of things. Even if you're going to go for an interview, look in the mirror and practice yourself and see what your behavior is like and what you're doing. Always take a look at in the mirror. Learn to juggle. People say to me all the time, when do you sleep? How do you do all what you do? Well, you can. Every day I write out a schedule, what I'm going to do, and usually put a time frame on it to know exactly how much time I'm going to spend for something. You can juggle. You can do a lot of different things. I'm thinking about writing another book, which I probably will, and not quite sure. I got 2 or 3 in my head I'm thinking about, but one is on financial planning and financial management. We're weak at that. We do not do a good job. Next generation, we need to leave something for them instead of a car, So we got to learn what financial planning is all about. I'm hoping to start an article in my newspaper every other month on financial planning, how to save, how to invest, and all of that. The verbal contract. When I told him that I was coming here, that was a verbal contract. When he told me what time I needed to be here, that's a verbal contract. It's not in writing. Doesn't have to be in writing. It can just be a handshake. That's all. Now, you know, you have to get something notarized and you got to do all of that. That's not necessary. I grew up in which a handshake was all it takes, you know. If you say you're going to do something, just do it. Your word is your bond. I grew up hearing that. Your word is your bond. What you say you're going to do, people shouldn't have to keep calling you, bugging you, or something of that nature, you know. The unsurprising performance review. If you're working someplace, there should not be a performance review, normally going to be reviewed every 6 months or once a year. There should be no surprise to you. Now, in my consulting, I've come up with something else. Instead of an exit interview when the person is leaving, I've come up with a stay interview. Every 6 months or every 3 months, your supervisor should be sitting down talking to you and say, how long have you been here? Why are you staying here? And then that will help you and will help him or her, you know. So when you do an exit interview, something has gone wrong. Either you got a better job or you relocated or something. But if you got a better job, maybe you could have gotten a better job there if the company had done a stay interview and interviewed you while you were there to find out, you know, what is it you want to do or why you're staying there. Understand your value. You know, we are what we are because of our forefathers. We're standing on their shoulders. And you realize how valuable they were. They didn't even have education in any of that, but had the mindset, they had the will, they were driven, they were spiritually connected. You have the same value. You can do, if your mind can conceive it, you believe it, you can achieve it. It's there. It's in your mind. There's no difference between your mind and a millionaire's mind. You know, they're the same size. The only thing, he or she put theirs to work. Chuck Sherrack, who owns Sweetwater and a lot of other places, he's a friend of mine. He endorsed the back of my second book, and I enjoyed talking to him. He became a billionaire in 2020. Last year, he made $1.4 billion. You know, he does a lot in this community. He gives a lot back, but it's only because he'll tell you he only sleeps 4 to 5 hours a night. I sleep about 5 hours a night. That's it. People say, well, that's not healthy. I even went to a health consultant, and they said, as long as you go to sleep, and you sleep when you're there, what you going to do? Go to sleep, right? So I stay up to 1 and 2 at night, and then I'm up 5:30, 6 o'clock. Why not? Once you get in a habit of doing something, right? If you get in a habit of doing it, it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to kill you. So why are you going to sleep it away, you know? It's all about who you know. That is a big one. That is a huge one. People say my phone looks like the Yellow Page directory. All the names and numbers that's in there. It's important to connect with people. We connected a year or so ago, and look where we are now. You know, we're meeting the fourth Thursday of every month. You know, we're talking a lot. We're doing a lot. You know, and I'm encouraging him on a lot. I haven't started pushing him yet. You know, but I will. You know. It's there. It's in him. He's very capable, very talented. And you are the same way. The meeting, how to. Well, that goes back learning talk to talk. You need to know how to handle a meeting, how to run a meeting, where to sit at a meeting. You're walking into a room, don't go sit at the head table unless you are in charge. Even if you're in charge, you don't need to be sitting at the head table. Those things are important. It's the little bitty thing that get us in trouble. Share your wealth. I've never seen a Brinks truck following the hearse to the cemetery. That's not going to happen. If you got some money, you're making money, I give back a lot. 3 T's. Give your time. Don't tell me that you don't have the time. You do. Your talent. Don't tell me you don't have talent. You can do something. And your treasure. Your money. Honest to goodness, you should share all 3 of those, not just one of those, but all 3. Time, talent, and treasure. The last one, don't be afraid of the unknown. Okay? Have you ever seen a turtle moving with his head in his shell? Once he sticks his neck out, he moves, right? That's the unknown to him. Same to you, you know. When you're going someplace, you can get hit by a car walking across the street. You know, don't be afraid of the unknown.
Thank you so much. There will be some books, and it's going to be at the end. You can do some signing, so this is an opportunity. John Dortch is full of a lot of wisdom, very young, very strong, and I play pickleball with him. It's just like I said, if you want to stay healthy, you need to learn from him. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. One thing I forgot to mention, I met the mayor, current mayor, probably years and years ago, maybe 20 years ago. 10 years ago, he called me and asked me coming down to his office, and I did. I have been meeting with the mayor every 6 weeks for the last 10 years. On Thursday of this week, I will be at Southtown Mall. A friend of mine, Linda Golden, is breaking ground on a building she's doing there. I will be the MC for that, and the mayor is going to be there too. I think I have him encouraged to, his term is up in 2 years, so it's time to have a female mayor, black, white, or whatever. So last Thursday when we met, he said that he will, and I gave him a name of one, so he's going to take it under consideration, and hopefully we'll see that happen. Thank you.